When it comes to horror-centered media, one of the last places I go to find content of this nature is anime, because the medium is so deprived of actual scary content that if you google the top 10 horror animes of all time, the first thing you're going to see is Black Butler for some godforsaken reason. Then again, I suppose gay media is terrifying, so maybe this result is not entirely inaccurate. That's not to say that American/Western publishers are much better. In fact, as much as I respect Scott Cawthon for being as successful as he is, a part of me wants to personally push him off a cliff in Minecraft for making people think jump scares is the only way to do horror. If it wasn't clear enough already, I'm not the biggest fan of this genre. I enjoy the occasional Roblox horror game with the boys every now and then, but overall, I just haven't had the best experience when it comes to spooky media. Anime in particular is an egregiously foul place to go for this sort of stuff because while American productions will do everything in their power to try and give you a heart attack, majority of Japanese horror manga authors seem to have some kind of secret competition of trying to see who can gross their readers out the most, which is honestly significantly worse in my opinion because I'll take Foxy jumping on my face a million times over whatever the hell Kichikujima is. Just so you know, this directly translates to Freak Island. Do not read it if you value your time and appetite in any capacity. It is just rancid and not even in a way that's entertaining, so you've been warned. This brings us to the introduction of a man by the name of Junji Ito. Mr. Ito is by far the reigning king of the horror genre in anime, at least in terms of pure popularity. Whether you're a fan of horror or just a casual enjoyer of an occasional spook, there's a high chance you've definitely heard of this man, or at the very least seen one of his many iconic panels from his various different works. Personally, I wouldn't call myself a huge fan of his stuff. The extent of my knowledge on his works is limited to his one-shot Snow White, which I wouldn't say I disliked, but I didn't come out of it eager for more either. Fortunately though, this current season of anime has provided me with a convenient chance to experience another one of his stories in the form of moving pixels. Uzumaki, I believe, is widely considered to be the most popular and widely known manga that Ito has ever published. It's a relatively short read, having only 20 chapters in total, and this adaptation consisting of 4 planned episodes is being handled by the likes of Production IG USA and Adult Swim. So naturally, I went ahead and gave this brain rot a watch. Did I enjoy it? Oh boy. The plot of Uzumaki starts off in a small, quiet town called Kurozucho, which, by the way, directly translates to Black Vortex or Maelstrom Town. The story is primarily centered around a female high schooler by the name of Kirie and her boyfriend Shuichi, who were both born and raised in this oddly ominous place. One day, while walking home from school, Shuichi asked Kirie if she would ever consider leaving Kurozucho, and the reason he suddenly brought this up is because apparently his father was going through some kind of weird psychosis, where he's becoming increasingly obsessed with Uzumakis. And no, I'm not referring to a loud blonde boy in orange spandex. I mean the old fossil has suddenly developed a hyperfixation to the concept of a literal spiral to the point where he's locking himself in his room all day to paint pictures of swirls and getting angry when there's no spiral fish cakes in his dinner. Personally, I probably would have chalked this up to late-stage autism or dementia, but that's probably why it's a good thing I'm not a doctor. Shuichi is convinced that there's something sinister going on in this town and it's affecting his father. To be fair though, cut him some slack, Shuichi. There are definitely worse things your old man could have autistically lashed onto. Aside from the weird, creepy old man who very clearly spits on that thing. Another prominent character we're introduced to is Kirie's classmate Azami, who is considered to be the beautiful, popular girl in school, all thanks to a scar on her forehead. According to her, she got the scar while she was trying to impress a boy she liked when she was a kid, and ever since getting the scar, she's basically never had any trouble getting boys to like her anymore, which unfortunately made the concept of love boring to her because pretty much every guy she meets just blindly starts thirsting for her. That is, until Kirie takes Azami with her to pick up Shuichi from the station that very same day, and instead of the usual look of attraction and admiration she's used to getting, Shuichi appears to be outright terrified of her, referring to Azami herself as a spiral. If it wasn't obvious enough already at this point, the spiral is basically the entire foundation and backbone of Uzumaki's story. The concept of the swirl itself was treated as just the signs leading up to something much bigger and sinister, but then this moment changes it from a mere symbol to hinting at it being some kind of sentient entity, and Kirie's friend is somehow connected to it. Following this encounter, Shuichi's father actually ends up dead after he stretched out and disfigured his entire body to take on the shape of a spiral. And look, I know this was meant to be like an extremely horrifying moment and everything, but come on, you can't blame me for thinking this is kinda goofy. The sky turning into a spiral here was a little discomforting at first, but I started snickering like a grade schooler again when I saw the dad's face looking like he just gave the best gawk of his life. The rest of the episode after this consists of Azami supposedly having developed an interest in Shuichi because, again, he's the only boy in a long time who didn't fall in love with her, and throughout the entire time she's pursuing him, the scar on her head is progressively turning more and more into the shape of a spiral. This all comes to a climax when nearly half her face is shaped into some kind of spiraling black hole that sucks in one of the guys that was interested in her and Azami herself. Now this first episode is, I'll be completely real with you, a bit of a mixed bag, and I know I'm probably going to either get called an ignorant tourist for not mindlessly loving this, or a quivering pussy for not saying I outright hate this show, but that is my honest opinion. The storytelling is, to be frank, extremely fucking rushed. The plot about a creepy town being terrorized by the concept of spirals is definitely interesting, but there is so much going on all at once that it's hard to get fully invested in pretty much anything going on, because by the time you process the scene you just saw, they've already gone through like 3 more that's just as cryptic as the last. The show seems so focused on trying to just throw creepy scene after creepy scene at your face in quick succession that it neglects fully establishing the actual setting or properly fleshing out the characters. Why exactly is Shuichi so unsettled by the town as a whole when the inhabitants seem completely normal for the most part and were just as equally unsettled by Shuichi's father as he was, and even the guy who was simping for Azami nearing the end of the episode was just as shocked as he was when he saw half her face caved in. It'd be a different story if he saw the spiral on her face and became even more attracted to her or something, but he just freaks out like a normal person. The show is trying to do the whole domestic horror thing of creepy town hiding dark secret, but forgot to make the citizens of said town actually seem all that bad. Also, I have zero reason to care for any of these characters. I barely even had the names of the 2 main leads memorized by the end of the episode. This is not even me trying to be pretentious or anything, this is basic storytelling etiquette. Is it not a fact that one of the main points of horror is to feel uneasy for the characters and root for their survival against whatever is terrorizing them? That's kind of hard to do when I know virtually nothing about them other than the fact that they're dating. All I really know is that Kirya's dad is a potter, and Shuichi's dad got hit with a bad omen. I know more about the characters' parents than the actual characters. I can feel sympathy from a basic moral perspective, but I have no real reason to care if either of these 2 get killed off. But overall, I did enjoy the episode as a spectacle. Supernatural horror doesn't exactly do anything for me. I much prefer stuff like thrillers because the idea of a serial killer hunting me down to shank me is much more terrifying than the thought of a ghost making things flood in my house. But some of the imagery here is very impressive, albeit a little silly at times, but entertaining to watch nonetheless. So whilst I wasn't really scared, nor was I entirely sold on the story or characters, I was still very much interested in watching the entire thing through, if only to see how far this eerie acid trip will go, and if that was Junji Ito's goal, then good job to him I guess. And besides, maybe I'm jumping the gun too quickly. This was only the first episode after all. Maybe the second episode will come swooping in, fix all the issues I had with the pilot, and elevate the series to the masterpiece that the fans believe it is. Never say never. Right? Let's just skip the bullshit. I'm not even going to bother sugarcoating or even attempt to make a joke. The second episode of this show is genuinely terrible, and I really just did not enjoy it, like, at all. As much as I'd like to give a play-by-play of the episode, I legitimately just can't because this stupid fucking disgrace of an adaptation has about as much focus as Joe Biden trying to form a coherent sentence. It's been a long time since I've been left completely confused watching an entire episode. Not even the Monogatari series left me this speechless. There was a plot about these 2 other students who are lovers but can't be together because their dads hate each other. Kirie has apparently been affected by the curse of the Uzumaki and now her hair has become sentient and going crazy. There's a girl who's jealous of Kirie getting all the attention because of her hair. There's this other kid who apparently likes Kirie but gets run over by a car later in the episode. No, there is nothing more to his character than that. This fat guy from the previous episode climbs onto the school building, turns into a giant snail, and then, I kid you not, they just cut away from that scene to show Kirie going to get a haircut. Because clearly that's the more pressing issue at the moment. Nearing the halfway point when the fat kid's bully also turns into a snail and the 2 start mating, I pretty much just completely gave up and just started watching the rest of the episode on autopilot.
Alright, I gotta leave, okay?
John, we just started. Come on, man.
Listen, there's a lot to see in this life. Not wasting it here.
There wasn't a single ounce of bloody focus throughout the entire 26 minutes. It's just weird shit happening one after the other, seemingly with no rhyme or reason. Was that the intention? Why was that the intention? It's not scary. It doesn't make the story any good. Just because something is weird and trippy doesn't mean it's deep. It's just stupid. And oh my god, the animation was not helping. The first episode looks like a modern day masterpiece of animation compared to this. I'm not usually one to care too much about animation, but when the visuals are your only selling point because your story is shit, well, now there's just nothing to enjoy now, is there? Look at this shot. What is this? Is she climbing the stairs or doing a Fortnite emote? It looks like she's humping the fucking air. I have expected a rainbow to appear when these two brats started coiling around each other like snakes and fled into the ocean. My face was so unbelievably straight during this scene, I might as well have been the goddamn statue emoji. Now apparently I'm not the only one who feels this way. It seems as though the average viewer seems to share my opinion, and even supposedly die-hard Junji Ito fans have come out to voice out their dissatisfaction, to say the least. According to this article by CBR, the executive producer of this show by the name of Jason DeMarco has actually come out with a statement claiming that they essentially got completely screwed over by a bunch of corporate suits behind the scenes. The original post making the statement has supposedly been deleted, but it cites here that he said,
"I can't talk about what went down, but we were screwed over, and the options were A, not finish and air nothing and call it a loss. B, just finish and air episode 1 and leave it incomplete. Or C, run all 4, warts and all. Out of respect for the hard work, we chose C. After waiting so long, it makes sense people would be mad. Unfortunately, I can't tell them who to blame it on, but someone is definitely at fault here, and we all just had to do our best when things imploded. Maybe others would have made different choices. We did the best we could with what we had."
Now these are very, very bold claims to be making, and while part of me does want to be sympathetic and condemn the big evil corporation for why Uzumaki is not a masterpiece, unfortunately that's just not how situations like these work, because there's this thing called lying. I mean, think about it, you're adapting a popular manga with a relatively dedicated fan base and you manage to fuck it all up, so instead of taking responsibility, you decide to blame it on the big bad corporation, so the fans have no real person to blame and your own ass gets off scot-free. Keep in mind, this is just a hypothetical. This is not me trying to say that Jason is necessarily lying, but as of the time of this recording, there is currently no tangible evidence that proves any of the claims that he has made on that post. Admittedly, it's very hard to provide evidence for this sort of thing, but that doesn't change the fact that it would be a lot better if there was some kind of actual proof like message logs or transcripts or something. And you might be going, "Oh, but pseudo, the episode was bad, so that's your proof." And well, no. Again, like I said, him and his team could have just fucked up and he's lying. Not saying he is, but the possibility is still there, so until we get some real evidence that they really got screwed over, for legal reasons, these are just allegations on Jason's part. I will, however, say that there is a good bit of circumstantial evidence that may point to this being true, such as the stats for episode 1 and 2 being completely different from each other, which is a bit suspicious, but the most glaring one by far is the fact that this anime came out this year. But if you look back to the original teaser, you will see that it was uploaded all the way back in 2019, 5 whole years ago. So although I can't fully believe the claim of them getting screwed over, it's pretty safe to say that something bad definitely happened behind the scenes that put this show into production hell, and my god, it really shows, man. As of right now, I have zero interest in watching the rest of the episodes. Maybe I'll pick up the manga at some point in the future, but for now, this anime is a certified stinker in my book. Now, if you'll excuse me, I have a date with Dragon Ball Sparking Zero. I'm the pseudo-intellectual, and have a spooky, scary rest of October, you gooners.